Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, amantes del rock y del metal. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas a Conexión Rock Radio. Para mí es un gusto estar aquí de nuevo con ustedes, llevándoles otra interesante video entrevista. Johnny González les saluda en este día y por supuesto les invitamos a que disfruten del contenido que tenemos para todos ustedes de manera periódica a través de nuestras redes y por supuesto que nos dejen su pulgar arriba si les gusta el contenido y las entrevistas que les ofrecemos acá en nuestras redes sociales. Hoy tenemos una dosis de death metal con un poquito de gótico, un poquito de rock progresivo, de metal progresivo. Y precisamente desde Noruega se presenta aquí en nuestros espacios la banda Green Carnation, y que tengo por acá a mi entrevistado en este día, y que por cierto pues ya hemos conversado con él anteriormente, y me refiero a Kjetil Nordhus, que es el vocalista de la banda y que le doy la más cordial las bienvenidas. Kjetil, good morning from Honduras. Nice to meet you again. For me, it's a big pleasure in talk with you again in this chance, and we share with the fans from Green Carnation around the world about the upcoming news that the band have. Welcome, my dear friend.
Thank you very much.
Start my interview with you. We had good news for the fans for the band around the world. At that point, part 1, the Shores of Melancholia. This is the name of the new album from the band. By the way, was released in September 5 of 2025 via Season of Mist. By the way, congratulations! You had made another great album with the band. This is the first part of a kind of trilogy. I have a feeling that you have perhaps made the most ambitious project for the band over the years in the history. I want to know, how did the idea of creating a trilogy come about, and how does this album set the stage for the next two installments in the history of Green Carnation?
Yeah, it is in truth a big project for us, a very ambitious project for us, and I think that's been a important part of Green Carnation since the very start, is to challenge ourselves musically and with different kinds of projects, like maybe our international breakthrough album in 2001, Light of Day, Day of Darkness, which was just one song for 1 hour, and after that we didn't really know what's next after releasing an album with only one track lasting for 1 hour. So that's actually when we started talking about maybe doing a trilogy sometime. Obviously we ended up with doing exploring different parts of the Green Carnation universe when it came to shorter albums in the early 2000s, and then we went away for 10 years from 2006 to 2016. When we got back together in 2016, we wanted to use the year on seeing how it was to be back together. It was the 15th anniversary of Light of Day, Day of Darkness, so we played that in Europe and the US and Canada, and some special shows and some festivals. And after receiving an amazing feedback from the crowd and the metal community all around the world, after coming back, it was a big motivation for us to continue as a band with Green Carnation and to make new music as well. And that's when the idea of the trilogy popped up again, and we thought that maybe we'll be ready for the challenge now, that we weren't early 2000s. And we knew it was going to take time, so we started writing on the trilogy on the same time as starting to write the music for Leaves of Yesteryear. So we did have a long-term project and a more short-term project on the same time, which was, of course, quite, lots of work already then, because to work short-term and long-term, I never tried to do that before as a musician, but it kind of worked out. So we managed to release Leaves of Yesteryear in May 2020, and we re-released Acoustic Verses 2 years after, and that was a little bit to give us enough time for the big project, which we are now in the middle of releasing. So not in the middle yet, but yeah, in the beginning of releasing, as you said. So yeah, it's been an idea that and I wish to do like a trilogy in for Green Carnation for more than 20 years, and now we're here, having released the first out of three albums. All three albums are recorded already, so we have like everything sorted for you, and there's gonna be two more albums coming in 2026.
Quick parenthesis for the people who listen or see this interview. I want to see make a kind of explication about the discography of the band. By the way, it exists in the discography of Green Carnation. The trilogy is a kind of box set that released in 2004 for many reasons. You know, that don't confuse the trilogy of 2004 with this trilogy of 2020. I want to ask to you and make a quick parenthesis, Kjetil. These new songs that appears in this new album, are the songs are new or was a kind of ideas that left off the record seasons of the previous works?
When Short was starting to talk about a trilogy in the early 2000s, we never got to start anything. Mm-hmm. So all the songs on the trilogy now is kind of, it's got nothing to do with what we talked about in the beginning of the 2000s. It's a new like the concept for the trilogy now was created in 2017 and 18, and we started writing the music then in 2018. So we have used quite a lot of time, and that's, I think that you can hear it maybe on the variations of the moods throughout the three albums, that it's a lot of different moods. Of course, you're in different, periods in your life during a 7 or 8 year period. Of course, you have like difficult periods, you'll have happy periods, and you lose loved ones during those years maybe, and you gain something you've wanted to do for a long time during those years. And so I think it's actually a strength of the album that it has been written during a period of our lives, which for us is the period approaching 50 years old. And of course, then you're in a stage in your life that you have life experience. Some have children that are on the way out into a world that's kind of difficult to relate to sometimes. There are stuff happening around the world now today that's really hard to accept in many different parts of the world, actually. And there's a technical and a technical revolution that's kind of taken away many of the things that we are used to, and kind of tells me you feel you're losing control, you don't know what's true anymore, kind of, for example. And we're not used to that kind of that kind of thinking, because when we grew up, we knew that, okay, this is true, this is not true, and it's easy to relate to, right? And now everything is just a chaos. And I would say that the three albums, they are about all this chaos and what it makes you feel.
Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting. It's a kind of balance between the previous works to this new one. I must to say to you, the album from start to finish is very, very good. I love the songs of this album, like example, In Your Paradise, Me, My Enemy, The Shores of Melancholia, like example, Too Close to the Flame. It's the most longer track song on the album, As Silence Took You. By the way, I had the feeling the title of the album fits very well a kind of a book or movie, like example, kind of theatrical movie in the musical universe for Green Carnation. The album has been described as having a duality, immediacy combined with epic storytelling. Can you elaborate on how you approach balancing accessibility with the grandeur typical of Green Carnation in this new album, Kjetil?
I think like I've written all the music together with Sten Roger Sordal, the bass player. Sten Roger is a master of catchiness and catchy melodies, and also, of course, sometimes kind of heavy, like old school hard rock stuff. Like he's from his favorite band up through his life has been Black Sabbath, and some people might hear that in our music. But then again, he's the master of catchy choruses, for example, and good melodies. And he's one of the best people I know, and surely the best person I've ever, worked with when it comes to writing stuff that's kind of feeling good in your ears. And my role in the songwriting has kind of been the compositions to sort out that we have 100% the right kind of themes and progression through the songs. And if sometimes you have a theme that's not 100% correct there, maybe we can take it away and try to put in something new there. And I kind of more been that kind of person. So I think you have it there. I think you have Stein Roger's in like immediate, like the listener get immediate feeling that this is a melody line, this is a chorus, for example, that kind of I understand it on the first time. But then you have different layers in the music because we don't use like this. I would say we use a progressive way of thinking song structures. And for example, the song you said, Too Close to the Flame, is almost 10 minutes long, but I think when you listen through it, you wouldn't guess that it's a 10-minute song almost, because it's just I think everything fits together really well. I think it's nothing that you go, okay, so wow, this doesn't belong in this song. I think everything belongs in that song, and it needed to be almost 9.5 minutes for it to kind of unfold like we wanted to, So I think that's I think the mix between the two songwriters is what makes these songs the way they do. And I think the most important thing is the number of the hundreds and hundreds of hours that we put into making these songs. I can say that all the songs on all 3 albums have at least, been, I think we have like between 15 and 25 or 30 versions of every single song, because there is something we need to make better from the first version. So we work on it, and then you have a second version, and okay, it's a little bit better. And then we go on like that for maybe at least 15 or 20 or 25 different versions before it's perfect like we want it to be, And then you go to the studio and you have to be open to new ideas from the producer as well, which is, of course, for many musicians, a really difficult task, because you worked so much for years and years with some of the songs, of course. And then you go to the studio, and then there's another like a clean pair of ears coming into the mix and saying that, I think we should try something else here. And then you go, no, So it's a very demanding process, and it's a process that takes a lot of time. And I wouldn't say that we doubted that we were gonna be finished, but there was, say after writing 1/3 of the material, you have been going on for years already, and then you have 2/3 left, and that's not always extremely motivating. But I think we've kind of managed to. Me and Stein Roger has gone up to the mountains in Norway, into his little house in the mountains, and we have kind of just locked out the rest of the world, and just been doing music for 2 or 3 or 4 days in a row, so sometimes 5 days in a row when we had the time for it. And then you get back to society and everything's happening, so you don't really think about it until the next time we can go up to the mountains again and then lock everything else out. So So I would say the majority of the 3 new records have been written and been, demoed like that. And then, of course, we went into the studio in April last year and stayed there until December. Not like every day for 7.5 or 8 hours a day, but like for that period, we had the studio up at Endre Kirkesola's place, the producer. So it was a huge, it's been a huge process for us, and which makes it, of course, even sweeter when we have feedback like your feedback, and I would say all the feedback I've actually seen on the new album has been really, really amazing. So that's, of course, all bands would say that we make the music for ourselves, and but the truth is, of course, that you want people to like it as well, but we would have been, I think we would have been proud anyway, but of course it's even nicer when other people like it as well.
Very interesting. By the way, I am glad that you and the rest of the guys enjoyed the experience recording this new album in the studio. By the way, I know that Endre Kirkesola is currently the new member of the band. He plays keyboards, and by the way, he's the producer of the new album. I want to know, Kjetil, how was the experience in recording this new album? Had a new member on the band.
He's been in the Green Carnation family for quite a while. We recorded and produced Leaves of Yesteryear in his studio, of course, with Kenneth, the previous keyboard player. But also Endre produced Light of Day of Darkness 25 years ago. And he was in the band playing keyboards in the early days. We had actually 2 keyboard players in the early days after Light of Day of Darkness. And when we came back together in 2016, he was also playing the keyboards for us. So he's not new to us at all. So it was kind of an easy choice. We knew that he was going to do the keyboards in the studio anyway. And then we asked him if he wanted to join us also live for at least for this period when we do a dark poem. And he said, of course, I want to do that. And then so now here he is. And we're really happy to have him. He's a great guy as well, and a great musician, and a great producer, of course. And it was a really natural choice for us, I would say.
The new album, for the people who are listening, the band for very first time, the history, we love this kind of special project, the trilogy, because your earlier work, like example, classical works like Light of Day of Darkness, like example, set a benchmark for long-term storytelling in metal. I want to know, my dear friend, how did you translate that ambitions into a kind of completely new musical and conceptual framework in this new work, like example, with a dark poem?
It's 25, say almost 30 years since or maybe at least 25 years since we started working on Light of Day of Darkness. And I think it's right to say that we had no idea what we were going into when doing Light of Day of Darkness. We wanted to do like this long song, and it just kind of course there is an idea behind it, but I think it kind of was made along the way. This time around, and when being 25 years older, 25 years more experienced as a musician and as a songwriter, and 25 years more experienced in life, I think we wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about what we wanted to do before starting it. We had kind of a clear idea on what we wanted to do before we started writing, because I think we needed to do that in order not to write many different things, and then after 2 years you find out that, okay, half of this I cannot use. So we had quite a clear aim when we started writing the music, and the motivation was to give ourselves this monumental challenge that we've never ever done before. Of course, we're not the first band who does a trilogy, but for us this is kind of a milestone in our career when it comes to the level of ambitions in a project, in a creative project, of course. And I would say Green Carnation, it's in the Green Carnation DNA to do, sometimes I say stupidly ambitious projects, because that's kind of what makes us feel alive. And this is certainly one of them. It's a kind of project that makes us feel alive, and we enjoy challenging ourselves, and we really enjoy challenging our fans, because we know that they are really fond of being challenged with us, and we have been growing together with our fans, and that's why I think so many fans really enjoy this first part of the trilogy. The next one is going to be different. It's going to be a different challenge to our fans, and the third album will be very different one again, and I think on the third album, I think that's when people would understand that this is actually a trilogy.
I had the feeling that you mentioned a few moments ago, it's a kind of challenge, it's a kind of win-win in even parts for this new work. By the way, appears collaborations in this new album. Like example, appears Ingrid Ows in flute, Kjetil Nordhus, and of course Henny Sernan in the percussion. By the way, Kjetil is the vocal from Slave. How the collaboration with other artists influenced the sound and vision of Green Carnation in this part of the history with this trilogy, Kjetil?
Ingrid on flute and Henning on percussion. That's two people that I worked together with in a symphony orchestra in Kristiansand. It's two people that are amazing musicians, both of them. And when writing the music for the first and second album, at least, we wrote flute into it, because we thought that was an instrument that would fit well into our music. And we didn't talk to Ingrid before we knew for sure that we were going to have flute on the album. So when I asked Ingrid, she's a young, extremely talented classical musician working in the symphony orchestra here, and she just thought it was great fun to be with us on the albums, and we're probably we use her sometimes live as well now when we do the acoustic version of Green Carnation, which is amazing, to play with her then. With Kjetil from Enslaved, that was when working on that song that's called The Slave That You Are, the song just became more and more extreme from each version in the demos. It's like it started off with a kind of aggressive guitar part, and then we did some kind of aggressive drums, but after working on it, the drums just became more and more aggressive, and even touched into black metal. And then my verses didn't fit the song anymore, because the song had evolved after I did the verses. So I immediately thought about Kjetil. We've been friends for many years, and we talked about maybe doing something together one time. And I just thought that his vocals would be perfect on this song. So I asked him, and he said yes, he would love to do it. And then he went into a studio where he lives and sent us the files, and it was 100% exactly like I kind of wanted it to be in the first try. So yeah, he understood what was needed in the song, and he just did it. And he's a world-class singer in his style of singing, I think. So I'm really happy that he wanted to join us on that, and it made the song very special, I think.
Looking back, like example, the acoustic verses was a major departure from the early style. Do you see at that point it's a kind of continuation of exploring new landscapes, or it's a kind of return to the core of Green Carnation identity in the musical universe for the band?
When deciding to do new music in 2017 and preparing for what became Leaves of Yesteryear, we also did talk quite a lot about what does people actually like about Green Carnation, and when do we think that Green Carnation are the best version of ourselves? And then we went back and checked out, of course it's the epicness of, the epicness of the storytelling, like from Light of Day, Day of Darkness, that we are actually returning to more now. It's many of the, the melancholic moods, but like I think Green Carnation, it's the melodies, it's the the sound of the band is like a typical thing for us. All bands have their sound, of course, but we also do have a very distinct sound. I think you can hear that it's Green Carnation even before I start singing sometimes, because it's just like, oh, this must be Green Carnation, So we try to go into all the earlier albums, also acoustic verses, and there is so many of the atmospheres in acoustic verses that, like, it's very typical Green Carnation atmospheres. So we try to be a bit aware of what's Green Carnation when Green Carnation is on our best, and then of course adding on 10-15 years more of experience, and as music people and music lovers and composers and human beings. And of course in the 2020 context, which it was then, we tried to kind of do a version of Green Carnation which was aware of our past but was looking to the future. And I think when you hear First Leaves of Yesteryear, I think you can understand that album is pointing towards this trilogy in sound, but we take it on this. We just, I think, take everything onto a different, I would not necessarily level, but we, like, the songs are kind of even more, progressive and heavy, and we kind of drag everything like even further out, in this album, and we do that in the second and not least the third album, which is going to be a big surprise for many people.
The live performance has been a crucial part in the identity of the band. How do you plan in bring the episcope with an emotional depth of the dark point into a live setting for the fans here in Europe?
Yeah, it's a hard task, but I think we have the musicians to do it. Mm-hmm. We have been traveling. We are going to travel probably with three guitarists now, and keyboards and bass and vocals and drums. So we're going to be 7 people in the band, which would open the more possibilities for us when it comes to exploring different moods also live. But I think the most important thing is just to work on it until it's not 90%, not 92 or 94, but like 100% of what we're capable of doing. And I can promise you the last 10% is more work than the first 90%, always. And the last 5% is probably double the work as the first 95% anyway. So we're just gonna have to, give it enough time, because it needs to, it needs to grow into us all. First, of course, all the songs needs to kind of grow into us, and then we need to grow it together in order for it to kind of blossom. And if we manage that, I think we'll be able to do that in a really good way. And we are hoping to be able to play. We're not going to be playing like 2-month European tour, and then a month in the US, and then a month in Latin America, because we cannot do that anymore because of we have a life outside of the band as well, of course. And then we hope to come to Latin America for the first time. We are talking to an agent that wants to help us with that. But again, it's not easy when you're maybe 10 persons traveling with a band. It's very expensive to travel, even for us to our to our next city in Norway is quite expensive to travel 10 people. So we cannot promise anything, but we will try. We will of course come to festivals and stuff in Europe, which is kind of a little bit easier at least. And if we can go to Asia for the first time, that would be interesting as well. But for me, Latin America, to be honest with you, would be the highest on my list with Green Carnation, because I know that for almost 25 years there have been lots of people wanting us to visit Latin America, and I've been there with other bands, and it's just amazing for a band to come there. And if we can do that with Green Carnation, I would be a happy man.
Okay, my dear friend, what message do you want to send for other people that enjoyed this interview? And again, thank you so much for your time today in your house, and the best wishes in this part of the Shores of Melancholia. We're looking forward in listening to part 2, and again in give continuity this new chapter in the history of a great band like Green Carnation. And again, my best wishes for you with this new release.
Thank you very much, and I hope that maybe we can have a chat again when part 2 comes out.
Bueno, damas y caballeros, pues ustedes ya han escuchado y han disfrutado de esta interesantísima entrevista acá con la banda Green Carnation, y de igual manera pues con Kjetil Nordhus, que ha estado aquí conversando de este trabajo muy interesante que es A Dark Poem, parte 1, The Shores of Melancholia. Les invitamos para que puedan disfrutar del disco. Ahí en la descripción del video vamos a estar dejando los enlaces, y de igual manera pues, que lo quieran comprar de manera física, también les invitamos para que puedan ahí hacer sus compras a nivel mundial a través de la tienda de Season of Mist en todo el mundo. Soy Johnny González. Estas fueron las entrevistas internacionales en Conexión Rock Radio, pendientes de la próxima de nuestra serie. Y como siempre les decimos a todos ustedes, en donde quiera que nos estén viendo, que el rock y el metal no falten siempre en su dieta diaria. Que la pasen muy bien.